Hey YouTube, welcome to my channel. My name is Amy, and if you are new here, so am I. So when I'm thinking about what to talk about for these videos, it's usually in my bedroom. And yeah, I have like these Steven Spielberg level thoughts and like movies in my head. And then I come down here and I try to translate them into the microphone, and it's not quite what I envisioned. So that's something, there's a lot of Amy that gets lost in translation when I turn on the camera. So maybe that's something that I will grow into over time. I also don't really know how to make like sensationalized YouTube videos, like YouTube titles and things. And honestly, that's not really my focus right now. I just I want to get out some thoughts, some things that have been on my mind lately. So I'm not really looking to be impressive or a big time YouTuber right now. So yeah, that's not really my goal. So in my last episode, I guess, I talked about how I was a very spiritually averse engineer and just person in general. I had an aversion to spirituality, and I was also very antagonistic towards spiritual belief paradigms. Like, I don't mean to come off like I was like completely antagonistic towards. This video isn't like about religion or anything, but yeah, I've always just kind of needed an evidence-based faith. And I actually grew up in a Christian household, so I actually really like the Christian philosophy on faith, which is Hebrews 11. And it says, faith is confidence in what you hope for and assurance about what you do not see. And I like the tie between confidence and faith, because in my mind, I think confidence is something that requires evidence. You can't really be confident in wishful thinking. So you need evidence and experience to be confident about something. So kind of a deeper backstory on how I was able to convert into these more spiritualist paradigms was that when I was an engineer, I was pretty depressed at that time of my life. I had a lot of anxiety every day, and I felt so low, like just so awful every day. And I think as an INFJ, you really have to have purpose and meaning in your work. And I did not have that. So it was really eroding who I was at that time in my life. And yeah, I guess I shot out an intention, a very strong desire to the universe that I wanted to heal. And I also had a deep hunger for understanding about the truths of this world, and also just love. Like I wanted to know about love and what that experience was really like. So those were the intentions that I shot out to the universe. And at one point in my job, I had a very mystical experience where one night when I was going to sleep, it was kind of a darker night for me, and I was just in such a low. And then in the morning, about like 2 seconds before my alarm went off in the morning, I I was totally unconscious, which is unusual for sleep. I usually at least have dreams and stuff that I'm kind of running through my head. And I was totally unconscious. And I heard a voice in the center of my head, like right in this area. And it was a very loud and commanding voice. And it said, "Open your eyes." And it was my voice, but it was not my inner dialogue at all. So it was very unusual. And then my eyes shot open. It was just like I was terrified. I was like, what was that? And at that time, I didn't think that I like had early onset schizophrenia or anything, but I kind of knew that it was spiritual in nature. So I've always had kind of a hard time with people's conversion stories when they're in a very suffering state, and then they just kind of adopt all the principles of a certain ideology or religion based on one experience. But that's just me. So if that's you out there, like, that's okay. Like, I'm not trying to disown your experience, or invalidate you in any way. But just me personally, I always have kind of a hard time with conversion stories like that. And for me, that was just like such a profound experience. Like, I had never encountered something like that before. And at that time, I had more of a Christian paradigm. So I thought it was like the Holy Spirit and that it communicated something to me. And after that, I kind of suppressed it though, because it was so scary. It really freaked me out. And when I was at work, I started to see things differently. I started to have more of a profound understanding of people's like inner psyches in a way that I can't even describe. And I also just had like a deep knowing about things that I can't even explain. So yeah, 4 years later, I got a deeper understanding though now, and a knowledge base about what happened in that moment. So I'm going to kind of explain what the INFJ sees in this world, because I think it's just so interesting that we are the seers of society, and the voice that I heard said, "Open your eyes." So I think something else that's interesting is that the psyche split up into kind of three broad categories, and it's like Freud came up with this model, which is your super ego, your conscious, and then your subconscious. And your super ego, or your higher self, which is kind of like your soul. It's like the part of you that's very moral and knowing. And what's interesting too is that a lot of indigenous cultures had that same model of the psyche. So like the ancient kahunas in Hawaii also had a similar model for how like the psychospiritual level is put together. I think what happened to me in that moment that I like had that mystical experience was my higher self was reaching out to me in a sense. So it's almost like we have this triune, this like in Christianity, we have God the Father, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. It's like we have a triune within us as well. And they say that the soul, the higher self, the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to term that, is more connected to the subconscious than to the conscious. So it communicates more through the subconscious layer of our psyche. And INFJs are very subconscious oriented individuals, that the INF functions are more subconscious based. So we tend to be a little closer to our souls than the average person. So I wrote down 5 things that the INFJ sees that I think other people don't. And I think that they're very metaphysically based types of seership. Number 1, I think, is that we see depth. I noticed that I started to understand like the deeper layers of a person, like all the way down to their inner child, even like what was causing them to be afraid, and like maybe why somebody might be like have a fear of rejection or a fear of abandonment and be behaving a certain way when they don't even notice that it's probably an inner child wound that is causing them to act out a certain behavior. So I was able to see that layer of a person. So we see depth into the inner child, and I think depth into emotions and just kind of understanding them at like the core level where fear is, and insecurities and things of that nature. So we see depth. And I think we also see clarity. With clarity, we are gifted with insight. So we are able to, we're almost like the counselors of this world. We are the people who you go to for therapy because we understand that murky that murky layer of the subconscious, which for most people is like they just don't even understand it. But we do. We see it with clarity and are able to discern certain behaviors and why we act certain ways. I think we see with color. I always considered emotions to be almost like the colors of the soul. So it's kind of funny because when I was an engineer, I just kind of had this higher awareness and perception of energy. And engineers are all about like energy balances and thermodynamics and things of that nature. So I just have like very clear visuals in my mind's eye when I was studying for engineering. And then I just kind of translated that into people and like how they interact, like having people dynamics and understanding power dynamics and things of that nature just in my regular social interactions. And I see that in my mind's eye, almost like a clairvoyant, and I don't think other people are able to see that. So I have almost like a color coding system in my mind for emotions. And yeah, for some people that's a spiritual gift, being able to see auras and things. I just see it in my mind's eye. And I think that could be kind of a helpful tool too, if you tend to be somebody who struggles with social interactions and trying to understand them. I think having kind of a color system for people's emotions can really go a long ways. And I think that the other thing that the INFJ is able to see is like visions of the future. Like we are visionaries. Like we're able to sort of extrapolate from our past these patterns and things and project them into the future. And that's always been kind of a hard thing for me because I tend to be a little too intuitive to a point where, like, the moment that I meet somebody, I can make really quick judgments and not give them a fair chance, So just based on like the small amount of behaviors that somebody shows me, I am able to know what's going to happen in the future with them. So it's kind of a good thing, kind of a bad thing, but we are visionaries, so we are able to see the future, and to some degree. I think that we also have tremendous focus. So I don't know about you guys, but I tend to be almost an obsessor of things, and I am able to put profound focus on a subject and get like just so much thought momentum on it. So it's almost like I have this freight train in my mind of thoughts, and it's like it's almost impossible to stop it once it starts. But that's actually a huge gift. Like, you are able to harness that in really profound ways if you can get like a handle on like meditation and things of that nature. Somebody asked me about meditation in the comments of my last video, and meditation, utilizing that talent. So there are multiple types of meditation, but one type is just like conjuring these like fantasies in your mind and like visualization techniques. And that's one type of meditation. And then the other type is just grounding you in the present. So you can focus on your breath or focus on actually this region. Some people do that. Just awareness, becoming aware of itself and like trying to silence a lot of your thoughts. So those are the two types of meditation that I would recommend for you. It's just stillness and actually utilizing our visionary daydreaming talent. So this video is getting a little too long. I'm trying to keep it under 10 minutes right now. So yeah, I'm just going to cut out now. So thank you guys so much for listening. I so appreciate my 3 subscribers right now. That is just so, like, it touches my heart. It really does. Thank you, and have a good day.